Hey folks, it's Mike here. This week on Contact we have Justin Pierre from Motion City Soundtrack. Motion City is going to be releasing their 6th album, Panic Stations, on Friday. I met up with Justin in Hartford in July for this recording, while Motion was in the middle to end of their Commit This to Memory 10-year anniversary tour. I feel like I've been saying this more and more, but this episode was a really special one for me. I grew up listening to Motion City. I remember playing them driving to school and feeling crazy and excited, and we talk a little bit about that in the show. Justin is a wonderful, wonderful guy and was open and gracious through the whole interview. I really couldn't ask for a better guest for the show. I'm curious to hear what you think. You can get to us at Ally Coalition on Twitter and Facebook. We are also on iTunes. If you could, just take 2 minutes to rate and review the show over there. It'll help us keep building this project more and more. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. It means a lot to me and the Ally Coalition. Let's start the show. So everybody, this is Mike. I am sitting here with
Justin, Courtney, Pierre. Many of you may know me from such acts as The Facts of Life, Do the Right Thing, and Not the band, Can the movie.
More recently, though.
Motion City Soundtrack, Human Being. I sing and play guitar. I sing slightly better than I play guitar. Truth be told, I'm kind of a hack, but you don't need to know that.
I don't think that's true.
Stop it. Go on.
Okay. So we are sitting on the ground in the Webster Theater in a very nice dressing room. This is very nice.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering how's tour going for you? How you feeling?
So far, so good. I think like the biggest change for me is I just had a kid. Actually, my wife had the kid, but you know, I'm a participant in that whole scenario, and so this is like the third. I think this is is it the second or the third? I think it's the third little jaunt that we've done. And like the first one was 5 days. The next one was like a week and a half. This one is 3 weeks. And I foresee a couple months of touring coming up. And so that's going to be even harder. But so that's a new adjustment. And I know that's not exactly what you asked, but that's kind of where my mind is right now, is like wanting to be there. Not like not wanting to be here, but I'm enjoying this, and I get to sleep, and I get to do a lot of things that my wife doesn't get to do because she's taking care of the kid. But so that's like my thought process is I'm enjoying this because I know that when I go back there, it's going to be work, but it's going to be also a different kind of enjoyment. I don't really know what I'm saying. It's both work, it's both enjoyable, but I'm having certain types of fun out here on the road that I can't at home. Like when I'm home, I never see movies in the theater. And when I'm on tour, like I have a day off, I can go see a movie in a theater, which is kind of cool. So it's the little things. But the tour itself is going great. This is our second leg. And I'll let you speak in a minute.
No worries, this is better.
It's the second leg of our Commit This to Memory 10-year anniversary tour. And so we did a bit in January, February of last year, or of this year, and part of the reason that we're doing this tour is that we weren't able to come to places, you know, like Florida, and we ended up because when we had the kid, we were going to do a different tour. We were going to put out a record earlier, and then that kind of changed things, and so we had to. Anyway, it's a long story short. So this was our way to get to some of the places that we weren't able to on the last leg of that tour. I hope you only have 2 more questions because it's going to take me at least 15 minutes to answer each of them.
This is good. It's great. It's great when people are like effusive and want to talk.
Instead of no, yes, no, sure. Yeah.
We did one of those not too long ago, and it took about 20 minutes to really like pick under the skin, and then we had 10 minutes left, and it was like, oh, and here are all the answers that you wanted the whole time. So that like it worked out, but it was definitely hammer and tongs for a while. I noticed your so like you said that you're playing kind of like secondary markets this time around.
I don't know what it's more that we missed some places that we weren't able to get to. Like we couldn't even like when we tried to put the tour together for the first half of this, there were no places in Florida had any openings for us. So we got a lot of angry emails and things. And so this was us trying to fit and play a lot of those other places that we just weren't able to because of we had to book it so quickly to when it was happening. So that's really the main factor in that.
So what is your relationship like with your fans? You just mentioned that like you have a bit of a back and forth with your fans. Like how does that work for you?
A bit of a back and forth, more of a forth than the back and forth. But yeah, I sort of took over like all the social media stuff in the last few years, and I'm not great at it, but it's I tend to be very silent between the time that we play and the next show in order to preserve my voice, because I tend to lose it easily and a lot. It's been kind of the bane of our existence. But you may or may not know that, and I think I've learned techniques in order to, if I'm losing my voice, I sing differently and all of that. But so for me, just the using Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff, it's a way for me to actually communicate with people, even though I'm not, it's not the same as like a one-on-one, but it's the, I guess it's not even new, but it's a newer version of one-on-one, and I like that. I like being able to do that. So I'll do that through Motion City, and then just my own the personal one I can get away with more and go off, off book a bit. But with the Motion City one, I try to keep it, with what I guess the five of us are cool with. I don't really know what I'm saying, but yeah. Did I answer your question? I don't know. Did you ask a question?
Yeah.
Was I just talking?
No, the question was like, what is the back and forth with your fans like? Is the
yeah. No, I didn't have a thought. I'm just remembering that you asked that question.
Is the sort of like not censoring yourself, but like keeping it a little bit cleaner on the Motion City thing something that you like impose on yourself, or is that something that like?
Well, I just have such a ridiculous amount of. Well, okay, yeah. My interests, plural, are very different. All five of us, I think, have different sort of things that we're into, and so I try to curb that and just focus on music and the band. And I've been getting better at like seeking out and finding, random art that people have made or strange things or just photos from this night or that night, and then just reposting them because I don't know, it's cool to find that stuff, and then I think people get a kick out of that. And then with my own stuff, I'm just stupid. It's mostly like I just repost things about the X-Files or Wet Hot American Summer and the new shows that are coming out, and and just random things. And my wife has to, she often censors my tweets because I'll think of something I think is really funny, and she'll say, well, you're not a comedian, so I don't know that you can get away with this. And it's not like I don't have a good example for you, but I'll, she also will stop me from posting something that only 2 people in the world will know. Like I'll reference something super obscure, but I still kind of do that like whenever I'm on tour, just because, I don't know, I get a kick out of it. But yeah, trying to think. But yeah, I mean, if you follow my sites, it is mostly just, pictures of Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny and, with a random thought here and there.
Big X-Files fan.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm watching, I'm rewatching the entire series right now. And listening, there's a great podcast called the X-Files Files at Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, Kumail.
Yeah, and I've been listening to that, and that's great. And I'm super excited. So I'm going to try to do all of that before the series comes out again. That's one thing I'm doing.
That makes sense. Some of the sort of obscure references, like although you're talking a little bit about like keeping those out of your tweets, that comes out in your songs a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if they're as obscure. Well, the one thing, I don't know. I'm going to go off on this tangent, but I know that like I used to, for some reason, I was obsessed with advertisement jingles from the 80s because they just got stuck in my head. Like I watched a lot of TV when I was a kid. And so a lot of those made it into our, or maybe not even a lot of them, maybe just a couple of them. But I feel like redefining beautiful. I think that was like L'Oreal or something. That was a line. Better by design, I think was a furniture store slogan.
Yeah.
And then what was this one, Modern Chemistry? I believe in crystal light because I believe in me. was actually sang in a song. Yeah, and I was like obsessed with that, and I was trying to figure out ways to get other things in there, and then also just like the pop culture stuff that I was into, all got remade now. So now I feel like people think that I'm talking about Transformers, like with Mark Wahlberg, but I'm really it was all about like the cartoon, which wasn't that great, but like I was in love with it as a kid, and I loved playing with those like the action figures, the Transformers. They were so rad. Yeah, and then like I referenced Twin Peaks once, and like now that's coming back too.
Yeah,
which is I'm very excited about. Yeah, I don't know if that's what you were asking, but references. Those are some of the things. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm now thinking while I'm talking.
That's better. So you talked a little bit about Transformers. Like when you're doing that songwriting, is the whole song about when you are that age, or?
No, I think for me it was like the way I think. I mean, it's hard to tell because a lot of the stuff I do, I just kind of go with my gut, and just sort of I find an idea. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. There's so many ways I could answer this. In terms of references, I think I use those as sort of shortcuts to get you from point A to point B. Or like if I, were to reference something, I think there's an association with that thing, and most 90% of the people know what that is, or they'll go, oh yeah, I know that, I get it, and then it sort of like allows you to say 50 words by using just one. I don't know. At least that's kind of the way I thought of it in terms of writing. And then I feel like I got away from that a bit, after like the third or fourth record. And then I don't know if I put a couple things in this new record, but not a whole lot. There is an X-Files reference in this new record. I think I actually do say The Truth Is Out There at some point.
Are you smoking a cigarette on the cover?
No, no. I don't. I quit smoking. It's a terrible habit. I urge no one to use it.
Me too.
Yeah. But I forgot what I was saying.
We were kind of vaguely on like references and Transformers and somewhere in there.
Yeah, Transformers, all about them. I have not seen the new movie. I don't think I even saw the third. I think I saw the first one. I was just excited about the idea, and I thought it was interesting to look at. But I was more a fan of the toys, I think.
So that's so interesting though. Like my experience with Transformers, I'm 24, is the movies. Like I was a little bit late to the cartoon. Like I don't know that I've ever seen the cartoons really.
I don't know if it's good, but and here's the other thing, and I think I just cut you off. I'm sorry, but I'll just
This is about you.
Okay. Hey, let's, enough about me, but let's talk about me. They had these amazing toys, and I believe that they were made out of metal. Mostly metal, but yeah, they were just so intricate and wonderful, and I think that they kind of brought the toys back, but they're all like real cheap plastic, and they don't really do as much as they used to. And I could be totally lying here, but I feel like, yeah, like the old school 1980s Transformer toys were amazing. And that's, I don't know, like really when I think about Transformers, it's more about, we were really talking, this is the most I've ever talked about Transformers, but I just think about, times playing with those machines and just the ability to turn them from one thing into another, and I don't know, it was just kind of fun. It was like these weird little puzzles.
So does that come up for you, like when you're doing those songs again on stage? Are you back there?
No, I think when I'm doing those songs on stage, I'm just like trying to do a good job, and I'm very focused on what I don't know. I tend to worry a lot, and so I'm just trying. I don't know. It sounds horrible. Like I don't. But yeah, my main goal every night is just to do a good job, and to hopefully people leave and they're like happy and they're not bummed out. And it's yeah, I don't know how to say this without sounding weird, but like last night we played a show and we got way off book. We just kind of were being ridiculous, and I kept like flubbing things up and forgetting, but like the more fun I have, the more like kind of sloppy I get. So I try to keep my mind focused, and then it's like, I try to get through the show and do a good performance, and then it's after the show that I go, okay, how was that? And I'm like, that was a good experience, But while it's happening, I think a lot of times I'm just concentrating. But I've been getting better at like kind of letting go. But it's like I have to just be so focused on what I'm doing, otherwise I lose my spot. My memory is not the greatest. And if I lose my place in a song, oftentimes I have to go back to the beginning to figure out what it is. Like, I can't just come in, so that happens frequently, and that's a bum out. Well, not frequently, but I'd say every few shows I forget something, and I just hate it. But I used to melt down a lot at shows when I was younger, like where it would just be the end of the world if I screwed up. And now, if I mess up pretty big, I just sort of start over. Like, after the next song, I'm like, okay, I'm starting over, and then I can usually get myself out of it. But it took 10 years of working toward that to make happen.
That anxiety about messing up on stage, is that for you or is that for the fans? Like, who are you worried about letting down?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I ever went that deep. I think I thought it was about, I just don't want, okay. My thought is that somebody has spent a significant amount of money and set aside a time and a place to come. Like, they've figured out their lives around this event. And if I can't bring it, for that hour or hour and a half that I'm on stage, like, that's like my only job, really, So to mess up, it just seems like it's just very uncool. But people are very forgiving, and I think that they often laugh, and they're like, okay, he's, whatever. But I think that, I don't know. I don't know that I really thought about if it was for me or for them, but I think in general, I just like to be good, or, like a good performer. I like to have it together. And I think, I don't know, but I do make a lot of mistakes. Yeah, I don't know.
Are you a little bit more at home in the songwriting part of so like you are a performer, that is your job, but also your job is to like put out stuff, right? I
definitely enjoy the writing most, although it is miserable in its own way. I think all of it's both exciting, fun, and miserable. But I think the idea stage is the best, like when you get an idea, and then it's trying to find how to make that idea into a fully functioning song, like reality. And then there's recording that, and then that becomes something else, and it gets mixed and it gets mastered, and then it's a song that exists. And then as far as like pulling that off live and performing that live, I feel like sometimes that can be very fun, and sometimes it can be excruciating, especially when there's a couple songs. Well, there's one song that we're playing on the tour right now where, like, my feet have to do so much work switching pedals to different things, and, like, I'm trying to sing, and so I just feel like I'm not giving the audience my full attention because I'm always looking down at the floor or at my hands, and so that stuff's going to work itself out over time. So it's interesting, like, we're on this Commit This to Memory 10-year anniversary tour, and with that, a lot of the songs kind of play themselves. Like, my hands just go to the right place, and I know those songs. But then with the new songs, there's a lot more stuff to work out.
What is it like playing stuff so like new stuff, obviously your audience is into, like you have a following, they want to hear what you're putting out. What is it like to play stuff from Commit This to Memory that, like, people have tattoos of, people have those songs have helped people in a way that's not regular?
Yeah, it's fantastic seeing people come up with, your album cover tattooed on them, and there's some, lyrics that you wrote tattooed over, scars and things, and I try to, and I think people know this, but they'll say things like, you helped me not kill myself, or you helped me do this or do that, and it's huge, and I often don't know what to say, and I try to just, point out that they were the ones that actually did the work. Our music, was merely a catalyst for that, and I'm glad, it's kind of like just being at the right place at the right time, hearing something, and I'm not trying to downplay what a song can do for someone, but it is, sometimes all you need, I think, is, I don't know, even to relate to somebody else, like somebody who wrote a song and said something, and in that song, it hit you in a certain way, and you're like, oh, that person's been there, or they understand what I'm going through. That, and you just kind of hold on to it, and it gives you hope, strength, or whatever. And I do think that sometimes that can be enough. But I also try to tell people, like, hey, you did this. Like, you know, we just maybe gave you a little nugget of something that you could hold on to. I don't know. But yeah, it is pretty far out. And I don't, you know, I think I wasn't, I mean, because I'm trying to think of, like, when we started playing music, I don't even think there was, I think Facebook had just kind of come out, you know. So there wasn't a lot of the social media stuff going on, or at least I wasn't aware of it. And so just in the last couple of years, I feel like I get a lot more of those messages of, you know, people saying, hey, you helped me through this hard time, or, you know, and I get that a lot, and it's kind of amazing. Like, it's a totally, it's like an accidental byproduct of just writing your life story or whatever, and you put it out, and then suddenly people are helped by it. Like, it's pretty cool, you know?
I think it's so interesting. Something you specifically said there was that, like, it's not you actually lending a hand. It's that people know that you have been to the same place. Like, I remember being 17 and hearing Last Night for the first time, and hearing the line, the As Autumn Turns Its Back on Me Again part, and being like, oh, he's been here. Like, this is a like, I didn't have, like, a super troubled past, but, like, being 17 sucks for everybody. Like,
Yeah.
just across the board. And I remember just being like, oh, he's been here. Like, this is a thing that we're relating on, even though it's like a super one way, like what we were talking about before. It's a lot of go and not a lot of, like,
or just like whatever it brought up for you might be one thing, and for me it was another. And even that can be, you know, people, like, I may have meant one thing when I wrote this, but other people are finding something else totally different out of it. And I think I've always tried to write lyrics in a way that somebody just asked me this question, I feel like, on Tumblr, but I'm trying to remember what the it was in terms of writing lyrics, and I always tried to write things from, like, where you could look at it from different points of view, which is very hard to do, but I feel like that allows, I think, more people to make, you know, sort of fill in the blanks and make it make sense for themselves. And I guess, I mean, all music kind of does that anyway, but I specifically was trying to do that, you know, for a while, or at least some songs I did it better on than others, but and some songs are just, you know, pretty much straightforward. But
I gotcha. Yeah. Speaking of being kind of 17, a lot of our fans are between, like, 15 and 20, or like 14 and 19. I know that you've had some struggles, issues, things. Things.
Sure. I had to call them things. Idiosyncrasies. That's what I call them now.
I like that.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you want to talk a little bit about, like, getting through that on your own, and then, like, what kind of your on the other side of those things, if you are, like, what's your advice looking back?
Well, it's so hard. I feel like it's really difficult for somebody who is older to give somebody who is younger any sort of advice. And I'm trying to remember, because it's like the last thing I wanted to do was hear somebody say, eventually things will get better. And it is the truth, but you can't hear it, I think, when you're a certain age. And maybe I'll say this. One thing I did that was very beneficial to me was that my dad would often give me advice, or he would say things like, this may not make any sense to you now, but someday it might. And so he used to have this analogy of taking these ideas or whatever and just put them in your back pocket and then take them out a few years later and look at them and see if they make sense to you. And I kind of did that, and it was just weird life stuff, you know, about, you know, if you don't try out for the team, or whatever version of that is for you, you know, if you don't try to get involved or try something, like, you'll never know. Oh gosh, I can't really remember the exact phrasing, but it was something about just go out there and make a fool of yourself until you don't, you know, or think. And I'm totally rephrasing his words into my own, but that's sort of how it sounded to me. Is like, you know, because I wasn't like he wanted me to try out for baseball and do these things, and I wasn't really a sports guy, but I try, but I think what I did is then I took that to like, acting, and I tried out for plays, and I actually got parts, and I, played music, and I made a fool of myself on stage, and that was fine. But eventually it was like, I didn't care. Like, I enjoyed what I was doing. And I think my point in all of this is that if I have any advice for people, I would say, if it doesn't make any sense to you now, just write it down on a piece of paper, or physically or mentally put it in your back pocket, and maybe someday it'll make sense to you. But what I have found, and part of my problem, I think, was that I sort of used drugs as an escape form. Alcohol and drugs and things like that. And I, for some reason, like, I didn't like who I was. And I don't know why I didn't. Like, now I look at that person from, 20 years ago or whatever, and I'm like, why did you not like yourself? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me now. And it was just like I had this thought in my head, and I just couldn't get it out of my head that I just was no good, and that everything I did sucked, and, like, just all of that stuff. And I developed a lot of anxiety around people and things, and, like, stuff like, I am afraid of heights, and I don't really like oceans. Like, I'm just scared of getting eaten or, like, drowning or whatever. Like, I have these weird phobias and things, but those aren't, like, I still have those, and those are fine, and I can deal with them. But, like, the not liking yourself stuff, that's just, I think there's part of me that always thinks that I'm a fraud, but I think I've definitely, like, I like at least 80% of myself now, which is a huge improvement. And I think what I did was I just sort of worked at it over the course of, like, and this, you're probably gonna want to slap me, but, like, it took me like 10, 12 years to get to this point where I'm like simply okay with myself. But to me, that's like a miracle, and just an example. Well, first of all, just stop using drugs and drinking and that stuff. Like, that's what I had to do first, just to get to just a normal place.
That's like ground zero.
Yeah, that's just a no-brainer. Like, you got to figure that out, which is very hard to do as well. And there's a lot of and I don't know how I did anything other than, like, I think well, it's funny, actually, commit this to memory. That was one of the first times where I actually, half the record was written under the influence, and then bad stuff went down, and I ended up going to LA, and the owner of the label, Brett Gurewitz, and his wife, they took me under their wing, and I got sober, and I was sober for many months, but I wrote the other half while I was sober. And then and I kept going out or messing up, relapsing, whatever you want to call it, and that went on for the next, I think, 5 or so years. But I got more and more sober time than drug time, after that point. And then I think it was in January of 2010 was the last drink I ever had, and it was a weird sort. Like, I love this about it. Like my last time was sort of this weird, like, I bought a bunch of beer and I was drinking it, and then, like, halfway through the case I was just like, this is bullshit, and I was just over it, and I just poured the rest out, and I'm like, this is just dumb. And it was such a, like, fizzling out of an experience. Like, it wasn't a big last blowout kind of thing, and I love that. And yeah, so it's been like 5.5 years since I had a drink, but that really was between 2010 and now is when I did the most work, I think. And for me, a lot of I get panicky, I think, or there was a time, and my wife, like, was there for this, where, like, I would just, and I've never had anything, like, any doctors classify me as you are this and you are that, but I think the closest thing it could come to is being a bit manic, followed by a bit of depression, and where I would just be very creative for hours or whatever, and then I would crash, and literally, like, I'd just lie on the ground for days, and it was miserable, and I couldn't get out. Like, I couldn't move my body. It was weird, and I don't know what I think fighting that, for me, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this or get this, because I don't know any of the technical stuff about what I'm talking about, but if you ever feel that where your mind is racing, and, like, the more you fight it, the harder it is to do anything. So I found over time that if I get to the point where I'm approaching that stage where I just got to lie down, I'll do that, and I'll just let my mind race for a couple hours, and then I kind of just jump up and start doing the dishes or something and just kind of like trick myself. And this is I'm sorry. I hope this is not like this is probably the worst advice, but this is just kind of how I've dealt with things, is that I try to stop them before they happen, like the panic and the anxiety stuff. And I really have had very few episodes, and now it's more like maybe minutes where I'll feel myself becoming overwhelmed, and I'll just lie down and just let it happen, and then just let my mind do whatever and not judge it, and then eventually I can get up and go about my day. And I just kind of, I'm just a little more careful. But I didn't take any medicine, and I don't do any of that stuff, and I have no feelings one way or the other. I think that, some people need medicine, and that's great, and some people don't, and that's great. But I think for me, it was just years of trying to get, like, I had a goal in mind, and then I worked toward that goal, and it was a very slow process. But now I think I am closer to the person I want to be than I ever have been before. And yeah, I threw a lot of stuff out there. I'm sorry, but those are some things that I don't know if that's exactly what you were asking, but
it is, and I think that kind of advice is really important to give to people. Where like a lot of the things you see, especially online, are kind of cookie cutter, and they're very broad, and things like it gets better does a lot of help for people. But I think specific things like that, especially specific stories of people who have been down and it took them a long time to get back up. Like it didn't snap one day and you're like, I love myself.
No. And I think that's the biggest problem and misconception with the human race as people, as humans, is that I think everything that we want immediately, and we want it now. And it's, because everything is so, like, if you want to listen to a song, you can get any song like that, any movie, any whatever. And then it's like, oh, I want to have, I want to lose 100 pounds. I want to have it happen like this. I want to do, whatever it is. It's like you want it instantly, and you don't actually put in the work that's needed in order to get to that place. And it's not even about getting anywhere. It's about, I almost used a horrible, well, I don't know, it's not a horrible slogan, but it's just slogans, like, bum me out. But, there's one, I think in AA, it's about progress, not perfection. But that is true, and I guess that's why it's a slogan. But yeah, it's like, I am not perfect by any means, but I'm so much, to quote John K. Sampson of the Weaker Thans, I am so much better than I used to be. Even though I won't say what came before that line in the song, because it's, but yeah, and an analogy I used for being sober, which I'm sure somebody else has come up with this before, but I love this. This really worked for me. Was that, trying to get sober, right? Day one, you open your eyes and it's like you just see bricks. You just see this brick wall in front of you. Bricks to the left, bricks to the right. And then each day you've been sober, you kind of take a step back from that brick wall, and you take another step back and another step back, and eventually you realize, oh, hey, this is a building, and there are windows over here, there's a door over here, there's, whatever, and you take more steps back, you get a few weeks, a few months, whatever, and then you realize, oh, there's many buildings, okay, and then even further back, and you realize, oh, this is an entire city that I'm looking at here. And my point to that is that you really have no idea what's going on with yourself when you're so close to something, whatever it is, if it's drug addiction, if, in my case, that's really what it was, or, and so the further away you can get from it, by any means necessary, is just, the better picture you have of what it really is. And so now, for me, as bad as it can get now, it's still way better than it would be if I go back to using drugs. And so that, I don't know, and I find inspiration and, I guess inspiration's the best word I could use, in new places. So I guess, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say right now, but my perspective has changed, and that's a big thing, especially with, being under the influence versus not under the influence. You have to take that stuff out in order to really find out who you are, because I think it's been, it had clouded you for so long. And what I found right away was a mess, and then I had to work through some stuff, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good these days. So there's that.
That's great. I have certainly pushed the amount of time that we
I am
asked
happy
you to be available.
talking about this stuff forever. I do probably need to preserve my voice a little bit, but yeah, this has been good. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, that was perfect.
Sure.
Thank you. I think that's going to help people a lot.
Hopefully. I mean, yeah, it's just, my weird experience, and I think like the main thing I want to say is that, like, I think I was like afraid I would lose something by being sober, but I'm just as big of a weirdo, fuck up, whatever you want to call it, that I was before. I'm just a little more. I'm just a lot more productive, So that's my pitch. That's my pitch to all of you.
Well, hey, Justin, thank you so much for doing this. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Everybody, we're going to see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.